Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
A written communication in a second language having the same meaning as the written communication in a first language. A written work, as a novel, that has been recast in a new form. A mental representation of the meaning or significance of something. Something a little different from others of the same type. An experimental version of the Night Fighter. An interpretation of a matter from a particular viewpoint. His version of the fight was different from mine. Manual turning of a fetus in the uterus, usually to aid delivery. A written communication in a second language having the same meaning as the written communication in a first language. A written communication in a second language having the same meaning as the written communication in a first language. An explanation of something that is not immediately obvious. The act of interpreting something as expressed in an artistic performance. A performance of a musical composition or a dramatic role, etc. A coat of stucco applied to a masonry wall. Giving an acknowledgement of obligation. Perspective drawing of an architect's design. A written communication in a second language having the same meaning as the written communication in a first language. The act of changing in form or shape or appearance. A photograph is a translation of a scene onto a two-dimensional surface. The act of uniform movement. A uniform movement without rotation. Genetics. The process whereby genetic information coded in messenger RNA directs the formation of a specific protein at a ribosome in the cytoplasm. Mathematics. A transformation in which the origin of the coordinate system is moved to another position but the direction of each axis remains the same. Rewording something in less technical terminology. The process of adapting to something, such as environmental conditions. A written work, as a novel, that has been recast in a new form. The play is an adaptation of a short novel. Physiology. The responsive adjustment of a sense organ, as the eye, to varying conditions, as of light. An explanation of something that is not immediately obvious. The edict was subject to many interpretations. The act of interpreting something as expressed in an artistic performance. A mental representation of the meaning or significance of something. An explanation that results from interpreting something. The report included his interpretation of the forensic evidence. Written material intended to be read. The teacher assigned new readings. A public instance of reciting or repeating, from memory, something prepared in advance. A datum about some physical state that is presented to a user by a meter or similar instrument. He could not believe the meter reading. A mental representation of the meaning or significance of something. The act of measuring with meters or similar instruments. He has a job meter reading for the gas company. A city on the River Thames in Berkshire in southern England. A particular interpretation or performance. On that reading it was an insult. The cognitive process of understanding a written linguistic message. His main reading was detective stories. Something a little different from others of the same type. The boy is a younger edition of his father. All of the identical copies of something offered to the public at the same time. The first edition appeared in 1920. An issue of a newspaper. He read it in yesterday's edition of the Times. The form in which a text, especially a printed book, is published. An event that departs from expectations. Biology. A group of organisms within a species that differ in trivial ways from similar groups. A variable quantity that is random. Something a little different from others of the same type. A variant of the same word. Differing from a norm or standard. A variant spelling. Exhibiting variation and change. Letters variant in size. An activity that varies from a norm or standard. Any variation in his routine was immediately reported. The angle, at a particular location, between magnetic north and true north. Ballet. A solo dance or dance figure. Biology. An organism that has characteristics resulting from chromosomal alteration. Something a little different from others of the same type. An emery wheel is the modern variation of a grindstone. An instance of change. The rate or magnitude of change. An artifact that deviates from a norm or standard. He patented a variation on the sandal. A repetition of a musical theme in which it is modified or embellished. Astronomy. Any perturbation of the mean motion or orbit of a planet or satellite, especially a perturbation of the Earth's moon. The act of changing or altering something slightly but noticeably from the norm or standard. Who is responsible for these variations in taxation? The process of varying or being varied. A written document preserving knowledge of facts or events. A written document preserving knowledge of facts or events. The work of a writer. Anything expressed in letters of the alphabet, especially when considered from the point of view of style and effect. That editorial was a fine piece of writing. The work of a writer. Anything expressed in letters of the alphabet, especially when considered from the point of view of style and effect. The writing in her novels is excellent. The act of creating written works. Writing was a form of therapy for him. The activity of putting something in written form. She did the thinking while he did the writing. Letters are symbols that are written or imprinted on a surface to represent the sounds or words of a language. He turned the paper over so the writing wouldn't show. Usually plural, the collected work of an author. The idea occurs with increasing frequency in Hemingway's writings. The work of a writer. Anything expressed in letters of the alphabet, especially when considered from the point of view of style and effect. A presentation to the mind in the form of an idea or image. The state of serving as an official and authorized delegate or agent. A performance of a play. A body of legislators that serve in behalf of some constituency. A congressional vacancy occurred in the representation from California. A creation that is a visual or tangible rendering of someone or something. A factual statement made by one party in order to induce another party to enter into a contract. The sales contract contains several representations by the vendor. An activity that stands as an equivalent of something or results in an equivalent. A statement of facts and reasons made in appealing or protesting. Certain representations were made concerning police brutality. The act of representing. Standing in for someone or some group and speaking with authority in their behalf. The right of being represented by delegates who have a voice in some legislative body. A presentation to the mind in the form of an idea or image. A presentation to the mind in the form of an idea or image. A person of a specified kind, usually with many eccentricities. The capable type. Identify as belonging to a certain type. Such people can practically be typed. Write by means of a keyboard with types. Type the acceptance letter, please. All of the tokens of the same symbol. The word element contains 5 different types of character. A small metal block bearing a raised character on one end produces a printed character when inked and pressed on paper. He dropped a case of type, so they made him pick them up. A subdivision of a particular kind of thing. What type of sculpture do you prefer? Biology, the taxonomic group whose characteristics are used to define the next higher taxon. Printed characters. Small type is hard to read. To break and turn over earth, especially with a plow. Turn the earth in the spring. Twist suddenly so as to sprain. I turned my ankle and couldn't walk for several days. Pass into a condition gradually, take on a specific property or attribute, become. The weather turned nasty. Cause to move around a center so as to show another side of. Turn a page of a book. Undergo a change or development. The water turned into ice. Let something fall or spill from a container. Turn the flour onto a plate. Cause a plastic object, to assume a crooked or angular form. The strong man could turn an iron bar. Undergo a transformation or a change of position or action. We turned from socialism to capitalism. Pass to the other side of. Turn the corner. Have recourse to or make an appeal or request for help or information to. She turned to her relatives for help. Turning or twisting around, in place. A favor for someone. He did me a good turn. Change to the contrary. The tides turned against him. Game. The activity of doing something in an agreed succession. It is my turn. A short performance that is part of a longer program. A circular segment of a curve. Sports. A division during which one team is on the offensive. A time period for working, after which you will be relieved by someone else. A movement in a new direction. The turning of the wind. An unforeseen development. Events suddenly took an awkward turn. The act of changing or reversing the direction of the course. He took a turn to the right. Go sour or spoil. The cream has turned, we have to throw it out. Accomplish by rotating. Turn a somersault. Alter the functioning or setting of. Turn the dial to 10. Become officially 1 year older. She is turning 50 this year. Cause to change or turn into something different. Assume new characteristics. The princess turned the frog into a prince by kissing him. Cause to move along an axis or into a new direction. Turn your face to the wall. Cause to move around or rotate. Turn a key. Change color. In Vermont, the leaves turn early. Change orientation or direction, also in the abstract sense. The mugger turned and fled before I could see his face. Channel one's attention, interest, thought, or attention toward or away from something. The pedophile turned to boys for satisfaction. Direct at someone. She turned a smile on me. Get by buying and selling. The company turned a good profit after a year. Move around an axis or a center. The wheels are turning. Shape by rotating on a lathe or cutting device or a wheel. Turn the legs of the table. Taking a short walk out and back. We took a turn in the park. The act of turning away or in the opposite direction. He made an abrupt turn away from her. To send or let go. They turned away the crowd at the gate of the governor's mansion. A movement in a new direction. The turning of the wind. The act of changing or reversing the direction of the course. Act of changing in practice or custom. The law took many turnings over the years. A shaving created when something is produced by turning it on a lathe. The activity of shaping something on a lathe. The end product created by shaping something on a lathe. Brief description accompanying an illustration. Translation of foreign dialogue of a movie or TV program, usually displayed at the bottom of the screen. Provide with a caption, as of a photograph or a drawing. Taking exception, especially a quibble based on a captious argument. A mere caption unworthy of a reply. A literal translation used in studying a foreign language, often used illicitly. A small glass adequate to hold a single swallow of whiskey. An informal term for a racehorse. Any of various breeds of small gentle horses usually less than 5 feet high at the shoulder. A range horse of the western United States. An incorrect translation. A card game, usually for 2 players, in which each player is dealt 6 cards and discards 1 or 2. Baby bed with high sides made of slats. A literal translation used in studying a foreign language, often used illicitly. A bin or granary for storing grains. Line with beams or planks. Crib a construction hole. Take unauthorized, intellectual material. The cards discarded by players at cribbage. Use a crib, as in an exam. Returning to a former state. A turning or tilting backward of an organ or body part. Retroversion of the uterus. Translation back into the original language. The teacher translated Latin texts into English which he gave to his students for retroversion. Translation of foreign dialogue of a movie or TV program, usually displayed at the bottom of the screen. Secondary or explanatory title. Supply, a movie, with subtitles. Translation of the words of a foreign opera, or choral work, projected on a screen above the stage. Translation of the words of a foreign opera, or choral work, projected on a screen above the stage. Run at a moderately swift pace. A slow pace of running. A literal translation used in studying a foreign language, often used illicitly. Radicals who support Trotsky's theory that socialism must be established throughout the world by continuing revolution. A gait faster than a walk. Diagonally opposite legs strike the ground together. Cuz to trot. She trotted the horse home. Ride at a trot. A metrical adaptation of something, e.g., of a prose text. The art or practice of writing verse. The form or metrical composition of a poem.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.